This is TWiT.
All the FANGs are suffering. They're all down, including Apple, 20% over the last couple of days. Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google, all down about 20%.
They had a pretty good run.
Yeah, I mean, some of this could be profit-taking. The stock market itself has gone down. There's some uncertainty. Maybe some of this comes from the Wall Street Journal report, and I know that we do this every year, but I'm going to repeat it again. Wall Street Journal says that iPhone sales suck, and all the suppliers are back. Or say Apple said, "Don't make any more." But Renee, I'll let you. You should probably have this canned.
I mean, I do at this point. So there's two things. One is sales could always go down. Any given year, sales could be down. We're in a mature market, and most people have a smartphone. And the result of everyone wanting massive growth in smartphones and to have the next billion and to have massive market penetration is at some point the market gets penetrated and there's no Apple stores on Mars. The other side of that, though, is that historically every quarter, especially every big quarter, there has been a run of hedge fund managers. Jim Cramer had a remarkably candid interview about this many years ago where he said that whenever they want to make money, they just call up and start a rumor saying the
I don't know
iPhone
how that
selling.
guy's not in jail. I just don't understand.
I don't know either, and they all do it. And they said that Apple sites love to run those rumors, so there's never any lack of anybody to publicize it for them. And they get the stock to go down, and then they sell their shorts, and they make their quarter, and they're super happy.
So this is today's Wall Street Journal, I guess yesterday's Wall Street Journal headline. Apple's suppliers suffer with uncertainty around iPhone demand. In recent weeks, Apple slashed production orders for all three iPhone models that it unveiled in September. But if I remember you saying this last year when the same exact story was published, well, yeah. So they make a lot of them. They announce them. They sell a lot of them. And then they say, okay, we can slow down production now.
And also, if you were Apple, and you know, there's been a lot of years where we haven't been able to get the phone quickly. And so if I were Apple, I'd be telling our suppliers to be ramping up, be ready for something much larger than what I expected. And then I would pull them back. It's not very nice to the suppliers to do that, but it also means that as Apple, you have a better chance of getting what you needed quickly and have them really ready for the kind of demand that sometimes we've had, and a lot of times we can't get our phone for months because it's way behind.
Yeah,
so getting
Apple's
them to ramp
notorious
up
for not really caring so much about suppliers.
Yeah. Right.
Well, yeah, that's because they want their suppliers are supposed to be big boys and big girls who know how to run a business.
That's right.
And remember that it used to be every single quarter after the iPhone announcement quarter, the shareholders would complain, analysts would complain that, wow, you let the waiting list for our ideal models was like 2, 3, 4 weeks. They were turning away people who had money in their hands. Why can't Apple solve their supply issues? So Apple admits people trying to say, oh, well, this is an artificial suspension of demand because they like to have the pictures of all those people in line. And no, they really want to take the money of anybody who shows up with money to throw at an Apple logo. And now that they're finally getting into a verve where they can figure out how to make sure that everybody who wants a phone can get them at the time that they want them, even if they want them on day one or week number one, sometimes that means making sure that your customers are happier than your suppliers. So that's absolutely not a problem.
And a lot of companies do this where they cut back, based on a variety of things. Just no one else cares about their product. Like no one else is tracking how many and who they called. And I mean, this is a very common process is to ask for more than you need and then pull back. We're a supplier for companies that do that. So it's not uncommon for that kind of thing to happen. It's just that no one else they're not tracking every supplier's need for all these different services and goods.
Well, I don't know. I watch billions, and according to what I've learned about the market from HBO, one of the things that really good investors do is instead of just reading the market newspapers, they go and they check and they call and they make calls. And the Journal says last week, big suppliers of iPhone components, including Qorvo, Lumentum, and Japan Display, cut their quarterly profit estimates, citing a reduction in previously placed orders from a, quote, large customer. Not Apple wasn't named, but a third to a half of the revenue in these companies, according to the Journal, come from Apple. Foxconn cut overtime hours typically available during peak production periods. But again, this the market might draw a conclusion that the iPhone isn't selling well, but it could, as we've explained, there's could be good reasons for this. What do you think about maybe the 10R being a little disappointing? Because that is brand new, right? The iPhone that came out a month later. Is it maybe that the 10R isn't selling that well?
I mean, if you look across the industry, like Samsung they're rumored to be making a super phone now because they want to sort of regain the luster of the past. Nobody is selling a ton of phones anymore. And again, it could just be that the market is reaching a point where you have to look at the business differently. The 10R seems to be popular in North America, whether it's popular or not internationally is difficult because the currency exchange is injurious at this point. Like a $750 phone in the US is a $1,000 phone in Canada, and it
Still
gets worse
expensive.
in Europe and Brazil
Yeah.
and Russia and places like that. And that probably does temper demand. So there's a whole bunch, and component prices. One of the reasons iPhones are so expensive right now is component prices are through the roof, which makes it unfavorable for everybody. So there's a confluence of a lot of factors that could be putting heavily on the iPhone, but also Apple brings on new suppliers all the time, and it's possible that Pegatron is doing more. That Pegatron's is doing more than Foxconn right now. Or it's possible that a different supply company other than Japan's supply is picking up other volumes, and it's really hard to sort of pick and choose one or two suppliers and see what the pattern is.
And we may,
the other problem here is that in every single presidential administration before this, a company like Apple felt like they could make plans 2, 3, 4, 5, even 8 years in advance, even very conservative plans, but still they could plan well ahead. And now when I talk to people who are making those kind of decisions, they're like, we're not counting on any deal that we make today being enforceable in 2 or 3 years, because the downside of the downside of having our entire product run of a keynote product in 2020 rely on our ability to access a certain supplier at a certain rate in 2020 is now kind of in question right now. So it doesn't mean that they are not making phones anymore, but it does mean that decisions that used to be a slam dunk are now, there's a lot more math involved, and they're not willing to, again, make gamble their entire company or all their profits for a certain quarter on being able to get access to a certain component that they desperately need from this one supplier. So there's a lot of calculus that is new in 2018 that wasn't part of the game in 2015 or 2016.
Well, in particular, tariffs and trade wars. If you're an e-bike manufacturer today, you're suffering. I've bought a couple of e-bikes in the last couple of months, and one of them, the one I've talked about, the Super 73, these guys just sent me a note saying, hey, we're sorry it's taken so long, but we've actually had to move our manufacturer outside the United States because 25% tariffs or 30% tariffs on Chinese-made motors, which is apparently the only reasonable place to get e-bike motors, is killing us. They said we got one shipment that we couldn't accept because it would have cost us $300,000 in tariffs.
Yeah.
And so what they're doing is they're transshipping them to Germany, or where they're going to make them there, where they don't have to pay that $300,000, but that slows everything down as they set up new production facilities. And also, by the way, cost jobs in the United States and ultimately cost consumers because the tariffs just get passed along to
and Apple
consumers.
may have seen this coming when they said they weren't going to talk about unit sales anymore. Like that.
Well, that's
not
really
out of
what
the
I'm
question.
asking here. I know this happens every year, but what I'm really saying is maybe there is something to it this year. Maybe because iPhone sales growth was close to zero over the last quarter. Maybe there is. And one of the things I maybe think you could draw from this is that we saw this with the 5C, right, and the SE, that really people who buy iPhones aren't looking for the low price leader. They don't want to give up features. They want
the 1 terabyte version.
They want the best one.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I think that Apple has seen that this is the market that they're. I don't think that it's that they're being elitist, but the market that's buying their phone are the ones that are interested in, that are buying it every year, are the ones that are interested in these bigger, higher quality phones. And so Apple's going to sell less units, and they're going to move that ASP up, based on that, and they're really just reacting to the market that is working with them, and they have that data, and they have been moving towards services for years. It's not like this is a sudden pivot. They're really, we can watch their income constantly increasing around the phone as opposed to focusing on it, and even things like the watch are picking up speed.